Hello and welcome to Virtuos once again. Today I will be making a market stand from the Whiterun marketplace in Skyrim. These are the few pictures I used as a reference, and I was also thinking of making a whole building from Whiterun, but that might take some time. The build will be completely XPS foam this time, even though some small details could easily be done also with polymer clay as I would usually do. I used this mini to make the stand the correct size, and I also made the stand 7.5 centimeters, which is 3 inches wide, so that it could easily be used in D&D with a basic inch grid size. I create the planks and bigger wood parts by sculpting into the XPS foam instead of cutting individual smaller pieces and gluing them all together. By using a small knife I created texture on the planks. This could also be done with the wire brush if you had enough space to work around here. But this let me be a bit more exact with what I wanted. For the overhead part I cut even-sized pieces of the foam for the thick wooden beams that hold the top in place. I remember waiting for Skyrim back in 2011, months before its release, and a few weeks ago I had a flashback from the Whiterun marketplace and I realized I didn't have any terrain elements that would let me create a town square except the fountain I made a while back. So one or two of these would be nice. Also, it's a lot more fun to build terrain with good reference imagery and really try to make it look like the original. I will be a bit sloppy with this because I won't be building the small ornaments under the top part, since it would be way out of my skill range with this small piece. For the cloth top I could use toilet paper or real cloth, but I decided to just use XPS. By slicing very thin layers of the XPS you can easily make it look like cloth in your crafts with the correct paint job. And the burnt and worn edges are easily created with this technique by just pulling and ripping on the XPS layer to create the uneven edge. I also wanted this market stand to look a bit more used as it actually is in Skyrim, because mostly the games that I play, Rangers of Shadowdeep and Frostgrave, the stand would have stood there for a while already, so it can't be too polished looking. Then it was time for the paint. I used reddish brown on the wood for this part, and I will be adjusting the coloring later with layers of dry brushing. The top will be the same as in Skyrim, worn out blue and yellow. At this point the colors are quite vibrant, but worry not, this will change later. While this was drying I started creating the smaller objects. I tend to do this with polymer clay usually, but the XPS should work well enough for this one. So 2 boxes of something like vegetables and fruits, 1 pot, a cheese wheel and some garlic. The garlic was done the same way as the pot's legs. Just roll the XPS into balls and it will tend to look like uneven spherical shapes. Very nice to represent garlic. I created the wood texture on the white boxes, and then it's time for the layer of black wash. For the top I used heavy dark wash on the edges and then diluted the edge with water to make it look dirty and worn out. Now the colors will also lose a bit of their vibrance. I decided to add some hay on the counter before moving on to dry brushing. First I dry brushed the whole piece with light grey, and once it had dried I used the brownish orange on most of the parts, but specifically the thick wooden beams to make some depth into the piece. So the beams will be a bit lighter color than the wooden panels. All it needed at this point was a bit of color on the cheese and fixing some spilled color on the vegetable boxes, and it was done. Leave a like if you like this, sub if you haven't, and tell me in the comments what you think about this. Would you like to see a whole building of the Skyrim Whiterun market or something else? Leave a comment down below and I'll see you next time.